On this episode of Audiobook Club, we travel to two alternative universes where the Allies lost the Second World War.
Lots of things have changed, most of them bad, some of them good. The bad news is British Prime Minister Winston Churchill has been executed in Berlin.
The good news is he died with dignity.
Shot by a Luftwaffe firing squad at the guards barracks at Berlin-Lichterfelde. Death by military execution was a special dispensation of the Führer, added Sir Robert dryly. They say that Winston refused the blindfold and held up his fingers in a V sign. I like to think that's true.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Steve.
Welcome to Audiobook Club. Most of the time we simply recommend audiobooks, but this week things haven't quite gone according to our very cunning plan.
Did we have a cunning plan?
Well, we had a conversation, didn't we? And
we did have a conversation.
In fact, we had
conversation.
We had two conversations. And the first conversation ended up with you going, I said, why don't we review this? And you went, oh, no, but I'm quite interested in these two books about if the Allies had won the Second World War. And you named both books, The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, and then SSGB by Len Deighton. And we thought we'd go on a little journey and see what we thought of the relative merits of two books that we kind of heard of, or two authors that we'd heard of. How could this possibly go wrong? We'll do a comparison of their different visions of the Second World War if the tables had turned and the Axis had won the war. And then about a week later, we had another call. And I said to you, Steve, how are you finding The Man in the High Castle? And you said...
It was a little bit... what was the word we both settled on, which was impenetrable?
Hard. I think and it was genuinely, yes. just as before I phoned you, I thought,
I should have known we weren't using big words. Yeah, it was hard. It was just a really hard book to read, wasn't it?
I've got to admit that I found it really hard. We'll come to that in a minute. But what caught my eye, before we get onto that, is this 100 best-selling books of the past 50 years in the Sunday Times this week. Did you see this, Steve?
No, not until literally when you just said those words.
Not until I copy and pasted the chart, the top 20 books, into the script that we used to do the show. It's interesting. So in the way of top charts and stuff, we should probably start at the end. But I
number 100.
Yeah, this could take a while. Yeah. Cue the camel dance music. I'm quite happy, actually, Steve, because we've done 3 out of 20, which is not bad, really. And I think I've read 2 of them. And then when you look at the fact that number 7, Delia Smith's Summer Collection, number 9, Rosemary Conley's Complete Hip and Thigh Diet, and where was the other one?
That did nothing for me, by the way.
No, it didn't. You should be happy in your body. I'm not going to shame you, Steve. And then Delia Smith's Complete Illustrated Cookery Course, which doesn't really work as an audio. We're doing quite well.
Yeah. She bossed the charts, Delia Smith, didn't she? I mean, she absolutely saturated. Do you remember having those books, when you were growing up? It was the books your parents had. And Delia was always there. And James Burke as well.
My parents didn't have the joy of sex, but somebody did.
Well, I really didn't think we'd be dragging your parents' joy of sex into...
we didn't.
So early on in the podcast.
I reckon you'll have read number 17, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 3/4.
Yeah, I watched it on telly, yeah.
Number 19, The Thursday Murder Club, which, of course, we've done.
Of course, and is being made into a Netflix film.
Yeah, have you heard about the cast?
I did hear about the cast. What a cast. cast, even the secondary actors are pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? We've got Helen Mirren in the lead role, of course. Is it Celia Imrie playing Joyce?
Celia Imrie, perfect.
Right up your street. And then Sir Ben Kingsley.
What does that mean? Celia Imrie's right up my street. I mean, she's very funny. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. Gentle and funny. That mischievous, like you.
That sort of Penelope Wilton kind of bracket, you know.
Yes. I don't know. Yes. And the one that got me was Pierce Brosnan as a West Ham fan. I don't quite know how that's going to work.
Well, you know, he's got good taste. I've doubted myself as a West Ham fan there.
Mr. Spielberg may have to exercise some artistic license there. I was delighted to see. By the way, this is by the number of weeks they've spent in the top 100 chart of the Sunday Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
Another one that we got was This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which pops in at number 14. And then we get to the books that everybody pretends they've read.
Brief History of Time, of course.
Yeah, which... in fact, number 2 and number 1 are, I reckon, books that people have bought and not necessarily read. So number 2 is Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And number 1 is Professor Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time. I haven't read that, but I nearly killed him once.
You nearly killed Stephen Hawking?
Yeah.
Oh, do tell. Come on, this will get us This will get us on you and yours this time.
Well, where I went to university, which is the same place he lived, the most popular mode of transport for students was the bicycle. And I, obviously can't see that well, but I managed to, get up the guts to thunder along the road on my little mountain bike, and suddenly there was this grey object in front of me, and it was Professor Stephen Hawking in the road in his conveyance. And fortunately, at the last minute, I managed to swerve around him. But for that, I could have killed Stephen Hawking.
Hang on. Oh, what a segue. You could have created an alternative history. Look at that.
I see what you've done. That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Do you know what, the whole alternative... This is why we had this call, actually. The whole alternative history, because I saw The Man in the High Castle on Audible. If it's it's a genre that really fascinates me, because I'm a sci-fi fan, and this is kind of it's not sci-fi, but it's not future. It's things that happen differently, and there's a whole raft of audiobooks that we could probably go into. And I think the reason why this conversation came about Man in the High Castle and SSGB is actually because they were on TV at the same time. So Amazon released Man in the High Castle, which did very well for them, really kind of put them on the map for drama for Amazon Prime. And the BBC produced SSGB and released that around the same time as Man in the High Castle was really sort of taking off. So, but the interesting thing is, and just to go back to our talking about how hard we found Man in the High Castle, the book, was a complete reversal at the time for me watching, because the Man in the High Castle TV series, absolutely captivating. Absolutely captivating. It was obviously very much changed for the TV, but SSGB I couldn't get into, and I think probably because I was so ingrained in Man in the High Castle, I was kind of hoping for the similar kind of sort of Nazi setup in SSGB, and of course it's a completely different situation, different time periods in alternate history.
Yeah, well, hold on, let's not jump to the punchline. We'll give our verdict in a minute. But the interesting thing is, what's the difference, Steve? You'll be good at this, I'm not. Why is this not a multiverse? Why is this an alternative history? Surely, once we do all these multiverses, there's no consequence in anything anymore.
No, it's very high-minded. You've been reading Brief History of Time.
No.
Why are there multiverses? What's the difference necessarily, actually? Because one surely might feed into the other, maybe. Would it?
I'm going with, I think...
Why are we here?
I think, strangely, for science fiction or fiction writers with a vision, strangely, they hadn't anticipated the multiverse. So an alternative history is an honest, single alternative if something had happened the other way. I think that's fair enough. And both of these books do that. So we're not flying to many different worlds. There is just one alternative version of our own world. Yeah. Calm down, Marvel. We've had enough. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think the Nazi comic universe isn't going to go down nearly as well, is it? Yeah.
No. Now let's do it the usual way. Come on, let's be disciplined, Steve. The Man in the High Castle is by Philip K. Dick. Philip Kindred Dick, December the 16th, 1928 to March 2nd, 1982. He wrote 44 novels and 12 short stories, including Blade Runner. Well, that was based on a short story called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Total Recall we've heard of. Minority Reports. That was a film with Tom Cruise, wasn't it? And I know I should have seen and know what A Scanner Darkly is, but frankly the title put me off. The Man in the High Castle was written in 1962. Like you, I came to it through the Amazon TV series, which I loved the conceit of it. It's like, what would it be like in America if the west part of the country was overtaken by the Japanese in the Second World War and the eastern part of the country was invaded by the Germans or conquered by the Germans. And we're in 1962, so the war is far behind us and slavery is legal once again. The few Jews who still survive hide under assumed names. The United States lost the war 20 years before. There are big ideas in there, like the Lufthansa flight from Berlin to San Francisco is a V2 rocket-powered type thing that takes 45 minutes. We don't actually get to go on that rocket ship, but, it's one of the things. The other one is they've drained the Mediterranean Sea, the Nazis, in order to grow some more crops. And what else have they done? The colonization of the moon is well underway, and there are missions to Venus and Mars, 6 years ahead of when the moon landings happened. I think 68, isn't it, the moon landings?
Yeah.
If it's not, we're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble. I think already we are in trouble.
Hitler's not very well. He's got syphilis. So Martin Bormann is the acting chancellor, and we've got Goebbels and Heydrich and Goering in there as well. All good, big ideas, Steve, correct?
Yes, very big. Yeah, huge, massive.
And all kind of televisual or film, sort of movie style in nature. But that's about all there is to this book, I think. Tell me what you thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of really enthralled with it was so engrossing, the TV series Man in the High Castle. And I think I found the pace of the book, and I probably shouldn't have watched the TV series before reading the book. I just found it quite slow, it's quite sluggish. That's my generational thing. Maybe I was expecting to get to that bit because it's really good, or get to that bit because it's really good. But from the TV series, I don't recall a lot of the stuff that happened in the book. Everything seems sort of progressing as it would have done in our universe, in our version of 1962, Concorde being developed, maybe, that sort of thing being developed. That is not obviously out flying, but they got that a bit early. But the idea that Adolf Hitler I think he had Parkinson's, I think, in the TV series rather than syphilis in Philip K. Dick's novel, Close to the Bone there. And so I don't know. I was very meh about the book, but maybe I shouldn't have been,
All right, here we go. I've gone on to Wikipedia because that's all we need to know these days, isn't it? To the page about the Man in the High Castle, and I'm going to scroll down to the bit where it says plot. And here it goes. Recently fired from his job at a Wyndham Matson factory, Frank Fink is a secret Jew and war veteran who agrees to join a former co-worker to start a business making and selling jewellery. Meanwhile, in the Rocky Mountain states, Frank's ex-wife, Juliana, works as a judo instructor and has entered a sexual relationship with an Italian truck driver. What? I think the problem with this is that the setting was good, the ideas were good, but fundamentally the story was a load of tosh. The characters were awful. I'm going to scream Emperor's New Clothes. I know we're meant to respect and admire Philip K. Dick as a great literary figure, but I'm afraid I think it was... Lots of it's gibberish. In fact, I've picked out my favourite gibberish clip for you, Steve. Hold on.
Pleased Mr. Baines, Mr. Tagomi thought. Delight on odor of cat-tossed piece of salmon, for instance, fatty nice tail. He jiggled the hook, then dialed speedily the Abharati Hotel.
Now,
yeah,
I don't know how you felt during that, but that's roughly how I felt through the 8 hours and 32 minutes of this book, to be honest. It's slightly scratching my head going, well, yeah. So we didn't think we had a show, did we, Steve?
No, I mean, this is the thing, that the book versus the TV series, I think there's real night and day here. I felt that the TV series was really driven. It was really, really good plot and everything. It got a little bit sort of sci-fi towards the end, to be honest, when it just realised it was a big sort of time travel thing and there's a portal and it got heavily sort of science fiction.
Boring!
Well, it just kind of, I think because it just sort of,
yeah, even though you're trying to sell it, it's just not working.
I know. So you won't remember. You may not remember this, but in Dynasty in the 80s,
Dallas,
Dynasty with Joan Collins and everything.
Yeah.
And there was a moment there where one of the characters, Fallon, I think, who'd been involved in some sort of love triangle. This was family. It was family drama, and then she got picked up by aliens.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when it turned out that season 7 had just been a dream in Dallas, and
No.
in season 8, Bobby Ewing returns from the dead.
Yeah, I mean, at least it was set on Earth. Do you know what I mean? At least it wasn't Bobby Ewing was placed back in the shower by an ice warrior from the planet Mars. It wasn't anything like that. It was properly. The ship came down, and Fallon just buggered off into this ship and flew off into the stars. It was just nuts. I mean, who? Anyway, but I had an air of that. But the book. I found it laboured. I thought, oh, how many hours? When you feel
it felt like homework, didn't it?
It felt like homework, which is a complete reversal to SSGB.
Yeah, SSGB. So we said we sat there. Our second phone conversation was going, we can't do a show about a book we don't like. These are the rules at Audiobook Club. If we talk about a book, normally we are asking our listener to invest £8 or however many dollars that may be in your particular country, and in this case, 8.5 hours, and it's a big investment. It's more than a film, and we try and recommend stuff. So we kind of said, all right, we can't do this. Let's go and try the Len Deighton book. And what did you know of Len Deighton before we went into it, Steve?
Well, we talked about this, didn't we? But essentially, Len Deighton is kind of, when you're growing up and you see your parents' books on the shelf or the books that were there, you'd always have stock authors who were always in every bookshop. The Wilbur Smith, anyone who had big gold embossed letters on the front cover of their novel with their name on it.
In the 70s and 80s, yeah. And
yeah.
Can I draw the honourable gentleman to people like, and I don't think I ever read any of their books, but Wilbur Smith was a good one. Who else have we got? Who was Dean Koontz? Frederick Forsyth is good. Dean Koontz, he was one. Never knew who Dean Koontz was.
He was like a rival to Stephen King. I remember my cousin was really into Dean. She loved sort of horror novels, and there was Stephen King, but then there was Dean Koontz, who was like the big major one of the 80s, who had better stuff apparently. But I don't know where he is now. I'll Google him.
But the whole idea being, who else have we got? Jeffrey Archer, does he qualify? But the whole idea of, as you say, the gold embossed letters on a thick paperback, and I only remember them with slightly yellowing pages from age. They were thick, they were heavy.
They were published that way. I'd never seen a brand new one that smelt like a new book. It was sold from print, from the publishers in W.H. Smith or Martin's or John Menzies or wherever, they were sold with yellowing pages.
Gently aged already. And they had a very distinct smell to them as well, didn't they? Which again, when I do sniff a paperback occasionally, it does remind me of my childhood.
It was as if a baby was born with a full head of hair and a briefcase and ready to go to work.
Right. You're quite ridiculous.
It's been a long day.
Yeah. So I went into this with, having just done 8 hours of homework, looking down the barrel of 12 hours of more of the same tut. I was a little worried. So first difference is that the book is set in 1941. Germany had already won the war in this universe at that point. Britain is occupied. Churchill, as we've discussed, has been executed. And the king is imprisoned in the Tower of London. And then it goes, at Scotland Yard, Detective Inspector Archer tries to do his job and keep his head down. But when a body is found in a Mayfair flat, what at first appears to be a routine murder investigation sent him to a world of espionage, deceit, and betrayal. See, already I'm in a better mood. And as the book goes on, look, the science fiction things have changed stuff. It's less dramatic because there haven't been 20 years for stuff to develop. So, the Tower Bridge has Nazi pennants hanging from it, and the SS have taken over Scotland Yard, and some of the book is about how does somebody handle that? How can you be a policeman in the UK and work for the SS with all that they stand for? And then I just thought the character was well written, and I have to say, how far did you get with it, Steve?
I got quite far in. I was gripped. I just ran out of time. Basically, I just thought immediately this has been whenever I had a spare 2, 3, 5 minutes, an hour, I had this book on, and it was just. And I think actually I know where it sort of plays into your kind of. I don't want to say the word wheelhouse, but I have just said wheelhouse. Is because you like detective novels, murder mysteries, that sort of thing. I think it would have worked anyway, regardless of the circumstances and the setting. This wasn't a story about the Nazis taking over Britain. This was basically a murder mystery being solved with a really interesting angle.
But isn't that the point? And I have to say, I've been on since and started 2 new Len Deighton books. But I think that's where I'm coming from, is that actually the big science fiction ideas aren't enough. And, the more televisual or cinematic nature of the big ideas. You can imagine, I don't know if Amazon did do a thing where they showed a public information film about the draining of the Mediterranean or something like that. Great idea, enormous, but without a story, it just doesn't hang together, and without characters that you believe in. So yes, maybe I'm being a sucker because I do like a murder and an investigation and a spy novel, but I just thought that the thoughts about how it would be in the Man in High Castle, there are lots of Japanese people in San Francisco. In this one, there's genuine difficult and interesting thoughts about how to operate in that environment. Look, it's a very blokey book, but I have to say it knocked the socks off the other one. And maybe again because I can relate to some of the places where it was set. There's a scene involving a school, and my children, it was their second choice of primary school. So there are actually real places in London that I can relate to, being a Londoner. But actually, I just have to say, I think the quality. The quality of the experience was far superior.
Well, there are examples of High Castle versus SSGB, and you hit it spot on there. The characters felt more rounded in SSGB because they were you had a better idea of what sort of people they were. Douglas Archer, Huth, the Steizenführer.
Good.
Yeah. He kept being called Brigadier, didn't he? But initially, but those characters were really fascinating. But this is what made it really engrossing to me. Actually, I didn't really I actually lost the desire. I wasn't really that bothered about the alternative history part that I then actually, it was just these strong characters involved there. You know, it was about the strong characters. So you could replace, the guy from the SS Huth with, someone else who was a bit of a nightmare. But I just thought it was a really, really good story.
I guess that's part of what it's all about, really, isn't it? These many alternative history and science fiction books. Well, this is the immediate aftermath and the results of the Second World War. The biggest event in human history, I think it would be easy to say, and some of the most terrible and terrifying things that ever happened. And both of these authors are of a similar age, born in the 1920s, and the Second World War had an impact on their life. My dad was born in 1936, so he was 3.5 when the war started, and he's just passed away at the age of 87. You and I grew up, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but with family members who could remember the war in real life. And then also in the UK, certainly, we were surrounded by stories and culture and myths that were all, I think, designed to help us remember just how bad fascism, racism, etc. is. So both in terms of real, who did you have in your family, Steve? What were the stories around the dinner table in your house? Who had direct experience?
It wasn't a lot about the war, to be honest with you. I mean, my granddad fought in the war on the anti-aircraft guns. My other granddad I never met. He died before I was born, so I didn't actually learn a great deal. Bit of a Jack the Lad, so I don't know. He's of Irish heritage, so I don't know if he actually ended up being neutral and wasn't drafted anyway. I don't know, but I really should pay more attention to my own family. Yeah, how about you? And I've got a thing to say about the culture, I guess, after.
Well, in the real life thing was, as I say, my dad, who's just passed away at the age of 87, was 3.5 when the war started. His experience of COVID was worse than his experience of the war. His elder brother, Jack, 16 years older than him, served in the RAF, I believe, as an engineer, mechanic type person. And but as you say, there's also the fictional stuff as well, and the cultural. I mean, we grew up. I know it's all YouTube these days, but we had to turn on the television and choose a channel. And on a Sunday afternoon, it was quite often a black and white film set in the war, often about the horrors of war.
Yeah, also analogous to the war as well. I mean, I think you look at a very political black and white film. Passport to Pimlico is a classic, isn't it? That that had lots of sort of political tones in it. The early Carry On films, Carry On Sergeant. There was always an element of war, sort of, you came through, obviously very much so in the 50s and the 60s as well, and also the 70s, and actually even today. The good stuff really sticks around. The endless repeats of Dad's Army on BBC Two. Something I've discovered fairly recently is Americans reacting to British comedy. It's a major industry on YouTube. They make a lot of money from it because, of course, they're seeing stuff that we always took their stuff. We got Happy Days coming out of our ears over here, but they never saw Blackadder. They never saw Dad's Army. They never saw any of that stuff unless they made it themselves badly, of course, including Men Behaving Badly. And but so this is a huge thing. So it keeps this stuff keeps surfacing online the whole time. Dad's Army is an absolute case in point there. There was literally a meme going around last week during the Olympics. Tom Daly and I can't remember his partner's name, but they're in the double act synchronized diving. And and the meme was Daly and I can't remember the partner, but he just described their action as a double flip with Pike, and they'd inserted Pike from Dad's Army on the diving board with them, because Pike is a diving term as well. But there are still cultural references hanging around today. I think that that even now, I think kids growing up now, going through school, will learn about the war, even though, this year I think is the last time that the veterans will be going to a D-Day landing commemoration. But it's still very much around.
It's still made headline news. I mean, look, the thing that I've noticed is that, I studied some of this stuff at university. I mean, we were told what to look out for. If it looks like 1933 in Berlin, then be careful, because you might be heading towards the Nazis. And that includes racist riots on the street, burning out buildings where refugees live. And I'm going, well, hold on, this is ringing a bell. Unfortunately, they didn't tell me how to stop it. But I guess that we have to rely on society to do it for us. But I don't think... Do you remember the struggle we had when we were talking about Colditz? And I was in Australia and nobody had heard of Colditz.
No.
So I wonder, because people aren't sitting in front of BBC Two waiting for something good to come on, are we in fact, losing the ability? Are we the direct voices of people who remember the war aren't there? With the exception of the new Guy Ritchie film, by the way, which is excellent, the Ministry of... I know it's an unfashionable statement, but the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, starring basically Superman and Jack Reacher, is fantastic. And somebody laughed at me. She said, I'm watching Love Island. And I said, well, I'm watching the Ministry. She said, well, we're both then a bit of a... Well, how many Nazis have the people on Love Island killed, was my answer.
Yeah, they'll never remember the Ruhr.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Don't you look down your nose at me. Go back to reality television. I'm over here watching Superman and Jack Reacher kill Nazis, which is a useful...
You put the draft in front of Joey Essex, what's he going to do, eh? Pretty much like the rest of us would, just,
claim feet spurs.
Claim feet spurs, yes. Well, there you go. So I think summing up, we're sort of saying SSGB over Man in the High Castle, aren't we? As the book to read if you're going to spend your credit. Yeah,
here we go. I'll give you the rundown. So, The Man in the High Castle, written by Philip K. Dick, narrated by Jeff Cummings, who does an adequate job, although there are some slightly dodgy Japanese accents. 9 hours and 58 minutes from Brilliance Audio. That gets a thumbs down. SSGB by Len Deighton, narrated by James Lailey. James Lailey did no harm. He was adequate. His German accents, as someone who speaks the language, weren't great. He doesn't go up. Here we talk about a level of... If you're really good and you bring a good book to life, we use the word performed. I am obstinately using the word narrated in the case of James Lailey, though he did a much better job than I ever could. That's 12 hours and 25 minutes, and it's available through Penguin Audio on various platforms.
By the way, Jeff Cummings put me off a little bit with some of his impressions.
Yeah,
just footnote there. He didn't do women awfully well. Yeah, I didn't really go for him as a woman, as a lady voice.
Again, I think there is a certain amount of editorial decision making.
Such a hinge and bracket about him.
Well, again, we're not asking everybody to spend any time with that. So yeah, we like other stuff Jeff Cummings has done, and I'm sure he'll enter our sights yet again. But I don't blame him for that. I think he was trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear there.
Yeah. And by the way, we should mention at the time of recording, Man in the High Castle is still available on Amazon Prime Video if you want to watch that. SSGB isn't on the iPlayer right now, BBC iPlayer in the UK. It occasionally dips onto Netflix. Right now, you've got to buy the thing via Apple TV or Amazon.
I don't think I need to. I think it's. I know book people are terrible like this, and I hope as audiobook people we're not like this. It's like, the audiobook was much better. There is that snobism in there, isn't there? And I'm just going, I don't want to go near theatre film because I enjoyed the book, and the other way around, I enjoyed The Man in the High, like you, I enjoyed The Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime much more than I enjoyed the book. But we didn't review them because they were on television, did we, Steve? We reviewed them as bits of art in their own right, and one of them won and one of them lost. Yes, they did. They did indeed. Right. So
next week.
Right.
Time.
Let's reenact the conversation that we had just before we went on air in our what we call our pre-production meeting, where I said, "Oh yeah, before we go on, we've got to decide what book we're going to do next week." I've had a look online, and it looks like. And because I think Audible's recommendation system is getting better, I noticed that Keanu Reeves has written a book. And you said...
not hugely fussed about it. It made me sound like it's an autobiography or something.
And then you went and read a list of books, which included...
Yes. I said we should do something new. We should do something in the charts. So I went onto Audible and I started scrolling through new releases. And so we had on the conveyor belt Paloma Faith's MILF. That's the new one.
Genius.
From Blood and Ash, which is from Graphic Audio. That's a fantasy one. Sounds a little bit Sandman-ish with it says full cast cinematic music and sound effects. By the way, there's note in the sidebar there. Note in the margin, sorry, I beg your pardon. Dirt Mags, Alien. Really want to have a go at that. If you want to have a go, Alien, Rutger Hauer's in that one. It sounds amazing.
Is it a new one?
Yes, apparently. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I've been following him on Twitter /X. David Baddiel, My Family.
Yes.
Behind the scenes, which is an amazing read, I'm sure.
David Baddiel is more of Jewish extraction than I am. In fact, his Twitter profile, everybody else writes things like presenter of Audiobook Club, loyal father, blah, blah, blah. His just says Jew on it. So I should imagine that would be a book about Jewish families. That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Backstage at the West Wing is a book by two of the cast, actually, Melissa Fitzgerald and Mary McCormick. A Found Family in the Cornish Country Hospital by Joe Bartlett is another one. He Who Fights Monsters as well by Shirta Loon.
And then what did you come to? Then what did you say?
Anyway, fast forward to the end of it and the end of the whole list there, and up pops Keanu Reeves. Can I pause the recording just there while I work out how to pronounce this bloke's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, China
Mieville.
Is that how you pronounce it?
It is now.
Hang on, how to pronounce China Mieville. Hang on, I'm on how to pronounce stuff. China Mieville.
China Mieville.
China Mieville.
Rhymes with Knievel.
China Mieville.
Rhymes with Knievel.
China Mieville. Okay, I'll just read that. I'll just feel that.
I don't think I'm going to edit too much of that out. I think we can.
Don't do that.
We'll keep the spirit of it.
Okay.
And then
Keanu Reeves' book turns up, and it's not an autobiography. It's a book he's written with China Mieville.
No, what you said, Steve, was, and look, there seems to be a book by Keanu Reeves. That looks interesting. I said that 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, all right.
And then you said...
Bus crawling over my body here. Yes, the Book of Elsewhere, which looks actually quite interesting. Now, China Mieville was the author of a really fascinating story called The City in the City.
Okay.
I don't know if have you heard of this story?
I haven't done. And do you know what, Steve? Partly because we're running out of time, and partly because I want to approach this absolutely cold. I'm going to say, don't tell me anything. And I look forward to hearing what we both think about it next week. What do you think?
Oh, well, that is the instruction. Then that is what we shall do. And I shall tease you by saying... you'll be blown away, I think, by his look on the world. So yeah, genre bending, I think, is next week. If we haven't done that enough this week.
Demand interaction, Steve.
Demand interaction. Yes, cut that bit out. So demand interaction. Anyway, if you have either read SSGB or Man in the High Castle, the books, not the TV series, tell us what you thought. Hashtag Audiobook Club on any social platform you care to pop it on. And the Book of Elsewhere we're doing next week by Keanu Reeves and China Mieville. Let us know what your thoughts are on that as well. Audiobook Club is the hashtag you'll find us on. all the socials just by searching hashtag Audiobook Club. Thanks. And with that, I think we should get the hell out, yeah?
Yeah.
As ever, thanks for listening, and we shall catch you next week.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
With the state of today's economy, it's more important than ever to invest in products that last for years to come. As the seasons shift and get cooler, make sure your closet is stocked with durable layers that stand the test of time from American Giant. American Giant's clothes work harder and are wearable season after season. Their greatest hoodie ever made is made from the highest quality materials that are cut and sewn right here in the United States. So you're investing right back in your local community. Choosing American Giant means taking a stand for American manufacturing and hardworking Americans, something other mega corporations don't care about. From fleece to knit, all in a range of colors for versatile daily wear, American Giant delivers everyday pieces designed for everyday life. Feel the difference of quality, made-to-last clothes from American Giant. Get 20% off your first order with code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20.